From AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, Fox Sports presents the NFL. Welcome to America's Game of the Week and what's already been a wild Week 5 across the National Football League. We have an NFC East matchup coming your way this afternoon as the 1-3 New York Giants are in town to play the 3-1 Dallas Cowboys. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the NFL on Fox. My name is Tamir Moore. The Giants come in with a record of 1-3. The Giants had a poor start to the season, 0-3 start, losing their first 3 games to Denver, Washington, and Atlanta before winning their first game last week in New Orleans 27-21. The Giants, along with the Eagles, currently sit in the doghouse in the NFC East with a 1-3 record, but the Eagles just won at Carolina. That is now a final score 21-18. Giants, Dobie without 2 top wideouts today as Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton will be inactive this afternoon. Both guys are out because of a hamstring injury. It did not practice with the Giants this week. Last week, the Giants finally came away with their first win of the season, beating the Saints down in New Orleans 27-21 in overtime. Last week, Saints quarterback Jameis Winston gave the Giants pass defense a big test. Numbers are not good. They allowed Winston to throw for almost 10 yards per game, and Jameis Winston finished with a quarterback rating of 119-point run. Overall, this season, the Giants' pass defense is bottom 10 in the league as far as pass completion and completion percentage is concerned. Last week, the Giants' rush defense allowed 39 carries, 170 yards, and with 4.5 yards per carry to the Saints. Life must be good for Saquon. Saquon Barkley, who's coming off a torn ACL injury week 2 of last season. Saquon Barkley snapped last week at the Saints. He had 13 carries, 52 yards, 4 yards per carry, and a touchdown, including the game-winning one. Great game from Saquon overall. Overall, Barkley's numbers this season, 46.5 yards per game, 3.6 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Keep in mind that Saquon is still recovering from a torn ACL from week 2 of last year. Giants quarterback Daniel Jones threw a career-high 402 yards last week, and the Giants won at New Orleans. Plus, Jones threw for 2 touchdowns, tossed an interception, and finished with a quarterback rating of 108.5. Giants wide receiver Kenny Golladay put up respectable numbers at the Saints a week ago. 7 targets, 6 receptions for under 16 yards. And wide receiver Kadarius Toney, who will probably see more playing time this season with the injuries to Slayton and Shepard, had 9 targets, 6 receptions, 78 yards in the Giants' last game at New Orleans. But Kadarius Toney, like we said before, has not been used too much because they had Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton. But obviously now with those 2 out, Kadarius Toney will see an increased workload for sure. Meanwhile, the Cowboys come in with a record of 3-1 following an opening loss to the Bucs. The Cowboys have now won 3 straight games. The Cowboys hold first place in the NFC East with a 3-1 record. The Cowboys, however, do have some big-time question marks heading into today's game. Wide receiver Amari Cooper and running back Ezekiel Elliott are questionable with hamstring and knee injury. They were limited in practice this week. Last week, the Cowboys defeated the Panthers 36-28. Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, who of course suffered a gruesome ankle injury precisely almost 1 year ago, had been fantastic this season in his return. Last week versus Carolina, Prescott had 188 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a quarterback rating of 130.3. This season, Prescott thrown for 10 touchdowns and has only thrown 2 picks through the first 4 weeks at a quarterback rating of 116.9. Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb started moderately last week versus Carolina. 5 targets for 2 receptions on 5 targets, for 13 yards. Dalton Schultz, the tight end for the Cowboys, had a big game. 6 receptions, 58 yards, and a touchdown. And Ezekiel Elliott came to eat, albeit he's questionable today. 20 carries for 143 yards and a touchdown in their win against Carolina last week. Tony Pollard, who will be the starter at running back if Elliott can't make the starting bell, contributed last week versus Carolina to the tune of 10 carries for 67 yards. The Cowboys defense coached by Dan Quinn seems to have some consistent change attitude. They limited Panther quarterback Sam Darnold to 2 touchdowns throwing and held him to under 6 yards per carry as a runner a week ago. Keep in mind the Panthers were undefeated prior to playing Dallas last week. Keep an eye out on Cowboys cornerback Trevon Diggs, brother of Bills wide receiver Stephon Diggs. Trevon now has 1+ interception in all 4 Dallas games this season. He had 5 picks in all, which leads the NFL. He had 2 last week versus Carolina. Cowboys pass rush looked good, and Randy Gregory was a total beast last week. 2 sacks for quarterback hits and 2 tackles for loss against Carolina last week. Giants Cowboys today, 4:25 p.m. Eastern, 3:25 p.m. Central Time, right here on Fox and America's Game of the Week.